Tonight, how clean are our seas? A sea of sewage is pouring into the water around our coasts. There are calls for better monitoring and recording.
We only know about 4% of pollution incidents. We need to get the whole picture. And frankly, people have had enough of that lack of transparency.
Also making the headlines, we hear from a Scottish aid worker sent to help Brits fleeing from conflict-hit Sudan.
In sport, the atmosphere is building here in Dublin as Glasgow Warriors get set for the Challenge Cup final.
And I'm at Gurrock Outdoor Pool, which has been chosen as the cover art for the band Blur's brand new album.
I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. If you're headed to the coast this weekend, you might wonder how clean the water is, and it might not be as good as you'd hoped. New analysis shows sewage is pouring into the sea around Scotland, often close to areas designated for marine nature conservation.
The Marine Conservation Society says sewage was discharged into seas around Scotland for more than 113,000 hours last year. And that figure may be far higher, as fewer than 4% of the country's storm overflows are currently monitored for spills. Caroline Lewis has been on the Ayrshire coast to find out more.
More than 60% of the UK's seas are Scottish. With thousands of miles of coastline, enjoying the seaside should be a given. But below the surface, they are murkier than they seem.
We're hearing terrible stories from across the UK, including Scotland, of people having contracting gastroenteritis. There's people who've been in hospital with how sick they're feeling. And the last thing we want is to people stop going in the water because it's so good for you and it's so amazing. But sewage pollution will inevitably put that off, and it will stop people coming here to Scotland.
Sewage was tipped into the sea 14,000 times last year. Something campaigners have branded a scandal.
Sewage is full of all sorts of nasty things, so it's basically a cocktail of bacteria, viruses, nutrients, harmful chemicals, plastics, and as I mentioned, sewage-related debris, so things like sanitary products and wet wipes. So as you can imagine, these pollutants really do have a negative impact on marine life.
Many of Scotland's sewage systems collect both waste and rainwater, which should be carried to a sewage treatment works. But to stop flooding during heavy rainfall, excess wastewater can be discharged into rivers and sea. But this should be a rare occasion. But that doesn't seem to be the case. SEPA said the issue was due to the wastewater infrastructure, which was a legacy from the Victorian era, adding it would take a huge undertaking to upgrade it, and efforts would be focused where it would have the biggest impact. Last year, within 1 kilometre of this coastline, there was more than 50 incidents of sewage spilling into the ocean. And each one of those incidents lasted around 8 hours. The problem is the majority of the overflow pipes up and down this coastline are unmonitored, so the scale of the problem could be much worse than we actually know. Just 3.4% of Scotland's sewage discharge points are currently monitored, compared to 91% in England. It's something the Marine Conservation Society says needs to urgently change. But until Scotland has a system that's fit for purpose, the flow of sewage won't stop anytime soon. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
A Scottish aid worker sent to help Brits evacuated from Sudan has told STV News of the distress but also euphoria they experienced when fleeing the conflict-hit African country. Liz Tate from Lossiemouth volunteers with the Red Cross and was deployed to Cyprus to provide support to the more than 2,000 UK passport holders rescued.
Violence erupted between two rival militias last month. With the evacuation effort now over, Sudanese Scots say there are still many left behind and claim the UK government has turned its back on their loved ones. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
Relaxing on Lossiemouth's tranquil shores, it's a far cry from where Red Cross volunteer Liz was just a few weeks ago. After fighting erupted between rival military factions in Sudan last month, Liz was part of a major UK government operation to evacuate British citizens from the capital, Khartoum. Liz was deployed through the Foreign Office to Cyprus, where rescue flights landed before heading on to the UK.
When they arrived, they were a bit euphoric that they had got out of the country. That was the big thing for them. So they knew that they were safe and that they were out of the country. Within 24 hours, you could see that mood changing, because obviously they had left so many people behind, and they had also left all their possessions behind. And that's where the emotional support really comes in, because although these people are British citizens, it's like any one of the rest of us, we always know where home is.
More than 2,450 people were rescued, the longest and largest evacuation by any Western country. But not everyone who wished to leave could. Khalid's cousin Omar is a UK passport holder, but because his wife and children are not, they've been unable to reunite back home in Edinburgh.
Honestly, we feel that much more could be done. They could do more with diplomacy. Most of the communities here in Scotland are in support of a civilian-led government. It's a struggle for power, okay, between two generals, and when the elephants are in fight, the grass that pay the price, and the grass that is struggle, and the people of Sudan are in the midst of it.
As a humanitarian disaster plays out in Sudan, the conflict has brought the community here closer together, despite feeling increasingly helpless. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
Other stories, and the funeral has been held for a teenage boy who died after being struck by a car in Glasgow. Prayers were said at the Central Mosque for Artian Lushaku, followed by a service in Bearsden. Artian's family plan to release balloons in his memory at a park in Maryhill tomorrow to mark his 14th birthday.
The chairman of Tesco is stepping down following allegations over his conduct. Scottish businessman John Allen is to quit next month after the supermarket said the allegations of inappropriate behaviour had become a distraction. He strongly denied 3 of the 4 claims made against him. Now, Edinburgh musician Edwin Collins rose to fame in the 1980s as the frontman of Orange Juice before a successful career as a solo artist. Edwin's life, though, was turned upside down when he had a stroke 18 years ago, aged just 45. He was left unable to talk, walk or sing.
But Edwin was determined to keep going, and now he is back performing live and working on new music. Laura Boyd joined him at his home studio in Helmsdale to hear how he's doing.
And I never known a girl like you before.
Edwin, thank you for inviting me to your treasure trove of our studio. Tell me about what you've been doing then, because you are working on new music.
I've got an album ready to go. But I'm concentrating on the live stuff.
In 2005, Edwin, you have a stroke.
Yes.
Did you worry that you'd never get back to your music?
6 months in hospital, I couldn't say anything at all. I'm coming out of hospital. I wrote a song.
Did you write it in hospital? Or
yes, I did. I'm searching for the truth. Yeah. I'm searching for the truth.
Some sweet day we'll get there in the end.
Your beloved Grace.
Yes, by my side.
Yes, by your side throughout it. Is she your muse?
Yes. She didn't like that, but in a sweet way.
To see you now,
yeah.
You know, 18 years on, can you believe how far things have come?
6 months in the hospital, I'm so frightened to begin with, and I'm not frightened no more. Well, life's brilliant, Laura, and it's you seize it today. You must.
I've been ill myself, and I think
Yeah.
You do. You suddenly, when you're faced with that, I might not make this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're given that gift of extra time. It's very special, isn't it?
Yes. I agree with that. I'm not finished yet.
Mm-hmm.
No, we'll see.
There's life in the old dog yet.
Yeah, as I say.
And you can see more of that interview on What's on Scotland at 7 o'clock.
Now, it affects hundreds of thousands of people across the UK and can put a huge strain on family relationships. Now, pubs and restaurants are being urged to become dementia-friendly.
New guidance has been released to help businesses cater to people living with the condition, as Callum Clark reports.
Mary Connolly and her partner Richard used to regularly enjoy going out for a drink or a bite to eat. But after he was diagnosed with dementia 7 years ago, the thought of going to a pub or restaurant started to fill his wife with worry.
Some places weren't very keen on you going in. Like, they would look at you because he had mobility problems and dementia, and sometimes he could come out with things that you shouldn't say, which happens with dementia, and you would get some strange looks, and it made it awkward.
Now a scheme to make the hospitality industry dementia-friendly has been released by Stirling University. Researchers want to see things like easy-to-read menus and the option of private tables.
We have approximately 850,000 people in the UK living with dementia, and 2/3 of those people live within the community. So we have a huge population there who would benefit from this type of scheme.
Businesses which have started making changes include the Kinloch Arms Hotel in Carnoustie.
And we adapt to the people. We just want to give them an experience, a dining experience or a drinking experience in a normal atmosphere, and try and sort of blend them into the community.
If this can go ahead, this would be great. It would be marvellous for people with dementia and that, and their families, to be able to get out and do things together.
Callum Clark, STV News.
Parents in East Dunbartonshire have been left scrambling to try to find childcare after a nursery announced it's closing its doors with just a week's notice. It comes amid a legal row over the sale of the business. Selena Jackson has more.
Nicola's baby daughter is due to start nursery in August when she returns to work as a university lecturer. She has a place at Tender Loving Childcare in Kirkintilloch, but it's closing on Tuesday.
It was a week's notice. A week's notice. What a when you're sitting on a waiting list for a year to 2 years, just trying to get your children into nursery, and you get a week's notice that it's being closed. What are you meant to do in these situations?
It comes amidst an unresolved dispute over the sale of the nursery business to the new owner of the premises, Giffnock-based dentist George Kantopoulos. A disagreement over the terms of the sale is ongoing and is due to be discussed in court next month. The building behind me was bought by Dr. Kantopoulos in April last year. In July, TLC's lease expired. In January this year, court permission was granted to evict TLC from the premises, with the nursery set to close its doors this month. But parents were only told on Wednesday, giving them less than a week's notice.
My first thought was, do I have to leave my job, a job I love and a job that I've worked so hard to actually, get? But we've discussed it, and what we plan on doing in the meantime is essentially my partner and my mum are going to use up all of their annual leave.
Nicola's 2-year-old son also goes to the nursery. She worries the change will be hard for him.
It's just really emotional because you form bonds with the teaching teams at the nursery school, that your wee ones formed bonds and friendships, and it's really distressing because you found people you trust your children with.
In a statement, the owners of TLC say the local community relies on the nursery and the eviction has disrupted the lives of 78 children. They also say 15 staff are being made redundant, which will have a distressing impact on the area. But Dr. Kantopoulos says he was shocked and deeply concerned that the current operators of the nursery haven't informed staff and parents about the end of their occupancy, despite having known about it for 18 months. He says he'll do what he can to find a solution to minimise disruption and protect jobs, including offering to re-employ staff. In the meantime, Eastern Bartonshire Council says it's offering parents support and advice on alternative childcare provision that may be available in the area.
Obviously, 80 families are clamouring on all the nurseries to try and get their children spaces. There are none. And it speaks to the lack of provision within the area.
While the dispute rumbles on between the nursery and building owner, parents are left trying to pick up the pieces. Selina Jackson, STV News, Kirkintilloch.
Other stories in the West, and a footballer who plays for Airdrie has been convicted of a sex attack on a sleeping woman. Salim Khuider Aissa inappropriately touched the 23-year-old at a flat in Kirkintilloch in October 2021. The 27-year-old has been put on the sex offenders register. He will be sentenced next month. Teachers at the former school of the First Minister Hamza Yusuf have gone on strike in a dispute over pensions. Members of the EIS at Hutchison's Grammar voted to walk out after the union claims teachers were issued with fire and rehire letters, telling them to sign new contracts with inferior pension provision. A spokesperson for the fee-paying school said they were extremely disappointed and strongly rejected accusations of fire and rehire. To the sport now. Don't adjust your sets. He really is wearing that suit.
Well, John, if you've got it, flaunt it. If you don't, then just wear that. Good evening to you all. We are raring to go. That's the cry from Glasgow Warriors dressing room as they aim to win their first European trophy tonight. Franco Smith's side faced Toulon in the Challenge Cup final. The Warriors head coach says a victory would be hugely significant for the game in Scotland. Ronnie Charters reports from Dublin.
We are Warriors! We are Warriors!
The tartan takeover is well and truly underway. Thousands of Glasgow Warriors fans enjoying the atmosphere at the Aviva as they get set for their first ever European final.
Oh, massive. It's the biggest game I've been to. I mean, I've been season ticket holder at Glasgow for a good few years, and this is the biggest game I've been to.
We've got a really good team, and as he said, we've got a winning team. All we've got to do now is win.
A long time coming for Glasgow, so we're just looking forward to it, and I think it's a lot of confident people here, so it should be good.
Well, as the countdown continues to tonight's final, it's fair to say the magnitude of what the Glasgow Warriors have already achieved is really beginning to sink in. When you think of the really disappointing campaign last season, they now find themselves across the Irish Sea in the Challenge Cup final, standing on the brink of history, and for many of these Glasgow Warriors players, the chance of a lifetime to lift a European trophy.
Feeling good, everyone's just really excited. Like Franco's touched on, the aim at the start of the year was to get better, and we've done that slowly, but there's still a long way to go, and tomorrow's a chance to kind of reap the rewards that's come off the back of hard work. So everyone's just ready to go, to be honest.
It was on Irish shores almost 10 years ago that the Glasgow Warriors won their first ever trophy. Gregor Townsend guiding the club to the 2015 Pro 12 title. And for the man now at the helm at Scotstoun, he says a win tonight could be huge for the game in Scotland.
The quality of the players and the product that's been developed in both franchises has been noticeable. So for us now, I think, and for the Scottish rugby environment and for Scotland as a rugby union, I would surely think that this is a reward on hard work, and proud to be a part of it.
So this is what it all comes down to. With just under 2 hours to go, the Challenge Cup lies still in the Aviva, ready to be claimed. This could be one of the biggest nights in the Warriors' history. Ronnie Charters, STV News in Dublin.
New Rangers Chief Executive James Bisgrove says the club will hold talks with Celtic over the possible return of away fans for Old Firm games next season, but insists a full allocation is highly unlikely. Neither club took away tickets for the final 2 league derbies of the season due to concerns over supporter safety.
It's definitely an area we're going to look at, and we're going to have dialogue with all the right stakeholders, all the right authorities, be that Police Scotland, be that Celtic, and we hear and we recognise all the different viewpoints on that. So yes, absolutely, we're gonna look at that, and then we'll see where those discussions go in terms of next season.
Celtic assistant manager John Kennedy has warned players they risk being axed for the Scottish Cup final if their performance levels drop in the final 3 league games of the season. The champions suffered their second defeat of the campaign at Ibrox last week, and Kennedy expects to see a reaction from the team against St Mirren tomorrow.
The fact there's a cup final, you know, there's always places to play for. So, you know, nobody's guaranteed a spot in the team. You know, if somebody's in the team for the next two or three league games and they're not performing, then someone will be right behind them waiting to take their spot for a cup final. So firstly comes the weekend, we've got to put things right, you know, and get the performance levels back to what we expect and what we know we can get to.
The first leg of the Premiership playoff semi-final takes place tonight as Partick Thistle host Ayr United. Both teams go into the tie in good form. The Jags, who defeated Queen's Park home and away in the quarter-final playoffs, are on an 8-match unbeaten run. The Honest Men haven't lost in 5. Their last game was 2 weeks ago.
We've now had 2 games where we've scored a lot of goals and we've played really well. And that momentum for me is massive. And like I say, from my experience of the playoffs, it's so difficult to stop. It's difficult to stop a team with real momentum and real belief.
I think the break came at the right time for us after getting that late goal at Inverness to secure the second spot. I was really happy having the break because we had a few bumps and bruises and we were 1 or 2 players carrying bits and pieces at that point, which has allowed us to recover them, and we're almost like 95% of our squad will be fit and available for selection.
And Clyde will be aiming to overturn a 3-1 deficit in the second leg of the League One playoff final against Annan Athletic tonight. Now, the Women's Premier League reaches a climax this weekend, and what a finish we have in store with any one of 3 teams in the mix to be crowned champions. Glasgow City sit top, 2 points clear of Rangers. They are away to the Iberts Club on Sunday. A win will guarantee them the title. Should Malky Thompson's team win, they would go above City, but both could still be caught by Celtic. Fran Alonso's side are on the same points as Rangers. They host Hearts at Celtic Park.
There's players in there that have been over the course before, so I'm looking for all the players to be tapping into that experience and keeping the calm heads on Sunday so that we can stay focused and go and do the job that we need to do.
They've done a lot of hard work to get here. You know, we've had to claw back 9 points to get ourselves back into this situation where we've got some form of control. We speak a lot about what can we control, you know, and the only thing that we can control is planning and preparing properly as we've done and going into this game with the absolute mindset that we're going to win the game.
We love pressure, we embrace it. We know pressure sometimes you don't succeed straight away, but make you stronger because you can learn from it. And this team under pressure almost always has been successful.
And that, folks, is all your sport tonight. Have a great weekend. I'll see you again next week.
Thanks for that, Rahman. Well, let's look at the weekend weather forecast now with Philip.
Get set for a wet spell. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Hello, good evening. Well, thankfully things are remaining fairly settled as we head into the weekend. Our weather's still being dominated by high pressure. From time to time though, we do see a couple of frontal systems just fringing in across the north of that high pressure, toppling in, bringing with it some outbreaks of rain through Saturday and Sunday. Into next week though, things turning calmer and settled once again. High pressures building in from the Azores and high pressures building in from Scandinavia, and those merge across the country. Back to just now though, for much of today it's been fine, dry and settled. Similar conditions as we head into the first half of this evening. Later on though, we do start to see this frontal system moving in from the west, bringing with it some thicker cloud and also some outbreaks of patchy light rain and drizzle. So with all the clouds around, a mild night to come. Temperatures not dropping lower than around 6 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to tomorrow, it does mean it will be a cloudy start to the day. We do hold on to a lot of that cloud through the course of the afternoon, and then we start to see this next cold front moving in, bringing with it again thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle, mostly across western parts to begin with. Temperature wise, in the best of any breaks in the cloud, reaching highs of 17 Celsius. Through to Sunday now, that frontal system continues to work its way eastwards across the country, bringing with it clouds and outbreaks of rain. Things will be turning brighter from the west later on though, with highs of 15. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, for most of us, remembering exactly what we were up to in 2004 might be a bit of a blur, but not for one retired Guruk dentist. Ian Galt was immortalised in a picture taken of the town's outdoor pool for an art exhibition nearly 20 years ago.
And now, girls and boys, the picture is about to make waves once more. It's been chosen as the cover for Britpop Blur's new album. So it's not song 2, but photo 2 for the keen swimmer. And we've sent reporter Vanessa Taft to meet him back where it all began.
Well, what better way to spend a beautiful Friday evening than taking a dip in one of Scotland's loveliest outdoor pools. And today, that pool has been featured as the cover image for Blur's brand new album. And I'm delighted to say the man who features in that image is Ian. And Ian joins me now. Ian, thanks so much for coming down to have a chat with us.
Pleasure.
Tell me your reaction when you found out you were going to be an international album cover star.
An international supermodel. Absolutely flabbergasted and totally surprised.
And how did you find out that you were featured on the cover?
Someone in Minnesota phoned. Someone who'd seen it on the internet or something, and that's how I found out. I've just got off the plane from South Africa today, and it was the first thing that I've read on my text message, so there we are.
Amazing. And I mean, it was 19 years ago.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that day. Do you remember it at all?
Look, a couple of years prior to that, I'd had a really bad car accident when my legs were broken. I was told I might not walk again. And as I lay on my bed, I thought, if I ever get out of hospital, I'm going to go to Group Pool, come what may, no matter what the weather is like, and I'm going to make use of these facilities. And that's why I was there on that miserable night.
So how did you find out the photograph had become slightly iconic?
Somebody who saw an exhibition of Martin Parr's work in Glasgow, the photographer, yeah, he's quite well known apparently, phoned me and told me that there was a picture of me in this exhibition. And then Martin Parr got in touch with me and he sent me a copy of a letter and a copy of the photograph.
And have you heard from Blur at all since this? Did you know this was going to happen?
Look, Blur's really my daughter's age group. She's more inclined to know more about Blur. But, this was a total... I've been out of the country for the last 6 months, so this was a real surprise for me.
So if a lovely royalty cheque potentially comes in the post and...
Oh, no, I wouldn't want anything like that. But I shall buy the album, if it's in vinyl, so that I get a big picture.
Well, here's hoping. Well, the album is due to be released next month, so Ian will be buying it, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of others as well watching that'll buy it too. From all of us here in Gurrock.
Vanessa Taft there. So Blur, Edwin Collins, a lot of music in the programme and more on What's on Scotland.
Yes, lots more to come. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.